Okay. Good afternoon. We are calling to order the Oklahoma City Water Utilities Trust for January 30th, 2018. First item is the minutes of the January 16th Oklahoma City Water Utilities Trust meeting.
Move approval.
Second.
Thank you. Voting. And it's approved unanimously. Next item is the consent docket.
Move approval subject to individual consideration.
Thank you. Thank you. Any discussion? Any individual considerations? Okay. Voting. And it's approved unanimously. Next item is the concurrence docket.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Voting. And it's approved unanimously. Next are items for individual consideration. Item A, receive the application for RSR 240 LLC project SB-0038.
Move approval.
Okay. All right, any discussion? Voting? It's approved unanimously. Next, item B. Item 1B, presentation on project WC-0904, a 72-inch water main, condition, assessment, and associated projects.
Thank you very much, Chairman. My name is Larry Hare. I am the Raw Water Design Manager for the Utilities Department. And I'm going to talk to you about the 72-inch main that we've had problems with since it was installed back in 1989. We recently did a lot of improvements to the Draper treatment plant, and what I'm showing you here is the major discharge piping that's coming out of the plant, and all of these are tied together. So we have a 48-inch cast iron main and a 60-inch ductile main going to the north. And then we have an existing 72-inch main and a 48-inch main going toward the south and then toward the west. The 72-inch main has been installed since the late 70s. And this section right here is actually made of steel. So this part right here is not what we're going to be talking about. However, we will have to put in a new manway in order to assess a valve here in the yard. This shows you the extent of the 72-inch main that we wished that we've had a lot of events on since 1989. We've had 18 emergencies. 11 of those have been actual breaks in the line. But regardless of whether it was been a break or any other type of emergency like a leak or anything like that, you have to shut down the main in order to get to it. So typically, the extent of a shutdown for the 72-inch to fix it, let's say if you have a break here in the middle, you have to shut a valve pretty much a mile apart from each other. So you have a mile of big-inch main that is not running for you. A good thing is that we have the 48-inch main that runs parallel to it, so we're still able to provide a good level of service to everybody. Unfortunately, sometimes the main shutout has to be extended because these valves are fairly old and sometimes they don't operate very well. So we have to run another mile away to try to shut out the main. Yes, sir?
Well, the butterfly valves, and they're installed in 89 or so?
That's correct. But it's not the valve itself, it's the gearing or a shear pin breaks. And you can't really fix it right then and there. You have to move on in order to address the main issue, which is trying to fix the pipe itself.
So why are they being sheared? Are we not operating them? Are we not exercising them?
I don't really know the answer to that question.
You wouldn't think we'd be, just by the operation.
It's like, you know, if you're in a real big hurry to try to get something done, you know, you might over-torque something and you might accidentally break it.
Well, but they've got operators that shouldn't be over-torquing them, that operate the closure of the valves.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I agree with you. During a shutout, there are several places where we have people who are actually connected to the 72-inch, not directly to the pipe itself, but to a hydrant lead. And so when we shut out an area to be fixed, we interrupt service to some of our customers. So take, for example, the last break that we've had, which was back in October in 2016. And this will give you an idea of how quickly we were able to restore service back to the city. This was bid, that break happened actually on October 29th. This was bid on the 30th, the next day. The repair was completed about a week after that, and a couple of days after that, everybody was back in water. The thing about it is that we had several customers who were out of water during that time. We had the contractor have to go out and supply water to these people. So looking at the anatomy of a 72-inch concrete pipe, what's going on here is that you have a thin cylinder that kind of gives the pipe its shape. You have a cement mortar lining inside. You also have a thick concrete coating on the outside. And what provides the strength to the pipe are these wire windings. So they have a wire that winds around and around the pipe, and they're spaced so much apart. In the 70s and 80s, this type of pipe design or formulation of the wire was changed, and they became brittle. They were not as durable as they should be. So over time, they would suddenly break, and they would look like this.
Go back a second, Will, Larry.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so in that time frame, if you want to do a 72-inch pipe, there were two options. There was PCCP,
Right?
or it was steel.
Right.
And at the time, we thought they had equal durability, and the PCCP was quite a bit cheaper than the steel pipe.
Right. I'm not casting aspersions on...
No,
any
it's just a
decisions.
statement of fact. That was the process back then.
Right. So, on this contract, we're going to be assessing a good portion of this main, about 8.8 miles of it. And in order to do that, you have to get inside of the pipe. And I'd like to note the manway right here, which we don't have very many of on the existing 72-inch. But the first, in the pipe assessment, you have 3 levels of assessment. Level 1 includes an electromagnetic inspection, where they have this little fancy cart that will take magnetic readings of the wire inside of the pipe. And from that, they can assess, how many wire breaks you have and where they might be located. And you end up with a report that's similar to this. In 2004, we did a level 1 assessment on maybe 1.75 miles of the main, from the Draper plant down to 164th. And this is kind of like the graphic that we got from that report. The red shows that you had some wire breaks. Blue shows you had a feature there, like an air vac, or there was a valve here or something. But it didn't really tell you to what degree you had to replace the pipe. You just said, okay, I have so many wire breaks here. Well, what does that mean? We don't know. A level 2 assessment is that they will have a crew follow behind the guy with the electromagnetic cart. He will be tapping and visually looking at features inside the pipe and marking items that look pretty suspect, like longitudinal cracks, like you have right here, or any other visible signs of leaking that may look like there's a problem happening. And then they move on to a level 3 assessment, which is more of a finite elemental analysis that tells you exactly which pipe, which segments are due to imminent failure. And they can also produce what's called a pipe performance curve, where you have a section of pipe and you have a yield line right here. It says, okay, this piece of pipe, it might start, getting a little iffy right here around 110 psi. But if you lower the operating pressure in that pipe, you may be able to withstand a few more wire breaks and keep running. For valve assessments also include 3 levels of inspection. All of our 72-inch valves are in vaults similar to this. And in a level 1 valve assessment, they will operate the valve, they will get all kinds of information from the valve, they will listen to the valve as it operates and feel it to see if there's any resistance or any funny noises going on. A level 2 assessment includes actually taking the cover off of the gearbox in order to take a look inside and say, okay, is there enough grease in here, or do we have anything stripped? Is there anything else going on, any undue corrosion, and provide us a report on that. Now, these 2 levels of assessment can be done while the pipeline is still in operation. We don't have to shut down the pipeline for that. The 3rd level of of assessment includes actually going inside of the pipe and taking a look at the seating area and the stops, and they still operate the valve internally to make sure that the disc is meeting the stops correctly according to specification. Now, this shows some water flow in here, but of course, we won't have any water in here while they are assessing the valve. In order to assess the valves and the 72-inch pipe, there's going to be some work to do beforehand, and this is where our associated projects come in. To ensure that we have no interrupted service to our customers, we will have to lay, about 3,800, 4,000 feet of 12-inch main, and then transfer the services from the 72-inch to the 48-inch. And this new line will be interconnected to both the 48 and the 72, so if something happens to either one, we can quickly transfer to the other. Also, in order to do the whole assessment and the valve assessment, we have to have an end valve to close. And the end valve here is just on the west side of Telephone Road on 164th. And the City of Norman has a connection to the 72-inch right here, just before the valve. So if we were to do this without interconnecting them in such a manner to the 48-inch, then they would also be out of water. Manway access is a big deal. Right now, this shows the valves that we wish to assess, where they have about 9 of them, first starting at the plant and then ending about eastern. But like I say, you have an end valve right here to shut off in order to drain the water from this side. We have a couple of existing manways that we put in the pipe back in 2004 in order to do that first level 1 assessment. And then we're looking at putting in new manways along the pipeline in order to safely access the inside of the pipe so they can put their little electronic magnetic cart and visuals and valve assessments right here. And you'll notice that most of the manways are located at low spots because in order to do the complete assessment inside the pipe, they require the pipe to be pretty much completely dewatered. So when we put these in the low spots, the next time that we want to assess this line, we can easily get to the low spots and drain out the water through there. So thus far, we're looking about 13 new manways. We're looking at about 8.8 miles of 72-inch to assess and 9 valves to take a look at. Here's a schedule of anticipated activities in the contract, and we're looking to go inside of the pipe around I think November of 18 this year. So all of this is going to be a fast track type of deal. With that, I can take any questions you may have.
Any questions? I have one. If we go back to 2011 or 12, maybe even 13, we had summers with a high level of drought, and we had in certain neighborhoods a large number of water line breaks. And I guess it's attributable to the fact that the ground was dry and shifting occurred and water lines would break. Does a line this large, is it potentially subject to that type of problems if we have another high-level drought period?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, I think we ought to try to fix it.
And the thing of it is that it breaks without warning. I mean,
Yeah.
even in low, I think a lot of our breaks, emergencies have happened in low demand times.
Move approval.
Next is item B2, contract for engineering services with Triad Design.
Move approval.
Okay, any discussion? Voting? And it's approved unanimously. Next is items from trustees. Oh, I'm sorry. Excuse me.
Maybe I messed up. I did.
Okay, no, that's fine, thank you. So, any items from trustees? Okay, now the general manager report.
The one report we have on shows that the water revenues and wastewater revenues are on target. We're a little below on our expenses, which is good. On the water side, we're on target on wastewater. We have been putting in reserve our cash ready to go with our CIP, and we have many CIP projects getting ready to go forward on the interconnect and other projects, so we'll be coming forward with those shortly.
Thank you. Next, citizens to be heard. Are there any citizens who would like to speak to the trust? Seeing none, we're adjourned.